Hi everyone, great to have you all here. I'm Dan, CTO of Comply First. Today I'll be walking through some of the practical and technical aspects of the AML REQ. I've been helping FIs with their CBI reporting for almost a decade now, so a bit sadly I'm very well versed in it. Clearly I need to find some better hobbies. The goal for this briefing is really to highlight a few of the technical nuances of this return and show how it can actually be managed in a way that's more straightforward and less painful. Now, compliance can sometimes feel like an endless to-do list, so our first stop today is a checklist. Think of this as a roadmap from assigning responsibilities at the start all the way through to the submission and setting yourself up to do it smoothly again next year. If you do this right now, it'll save you a lot of pain in the future. The way I'd think about this is in 5 key areas: ownership and governance, data collection, preparation, engagement, testing, and finally, the submission. Before you touch a single data set, it's critical to decide who owns what. Compliance, ops, and data are all going to be needed throughout this report, so clear accountability is essential, and that will save substantial time later on. Once ownership is set, the next challenge is the data. Do you have all of the required data? Can you automate that data extraction? Running a gap analysis early on will save you time when it comes to the testing phase. With all that data in place, it's now about getting ready for submission and testing. Engaging with the CBI if some of that retrospective data is missing, attending their workshops to learn more, and making the crucial build or buy decision on how to produce the XML. This is where the planning starts to pay off. Then comes testing, probably the least glamorous part of this checklist, but probably one of the most important. Running QA checks and participating in the CBI's testing cycle ensures you don't get caught with errors at the finish line. Finally, the submission ahead, but also thinking ahead. Sign-off, audit trails, and documenting a run book means you're not reinventing the wheel next year. Make it repeatable and not a one-off scramble. So once you've got the ownership, data, and prep sorted, the next challenge is actually putting numbers in boxes. And as dull as that sounds, there are a few non-negotiables that can make or break your submission. There are 2 sector-specific templates on the CBI website at the minute. So firstly, make sure you pick the right one. One important note that Fiona highlighted, the CBI's sample Excel file doesn't actually match the schema. There are a number of mandatory questions in the schema that are actually missing. So we built a corrected version in the same structure, just with the new questions in it. So if you want it, drop me an email and I'll send it over. So there are a few rules that we need to follow. Firstly, customer risk ratings should always be reported as at the reference date, so the 31st of DEC 2024, even if things have changed since then. So think of it as a snapshot in time rather than a rolling update. For financial figures, as Fiona mentioned, everything's to go in euro units, not thousands. For exchange rates, be consistent. Either use the rate at the time of the transaction or the exchange rate at the reference date, so the 31st of DEC again. Both are acceptable by the CBI, but make sure if you stick to one, I'd recommend once you pick one, stick to it. Finally, every field is mandatory in this report. No blanks are allowed. If something truly doesn't apply to your organization, you're going to have to select one of the NA codes, and you'll see a number of them on the screen. So once you've nailed down the rules of filling in the return, no blanks and correct formats and official codes, the next hurdle is how do you actually deliver it? There are a few technical requirements when it comes to producing an XML file, and I'm going to run through a few of them quickly. Firstly, as you well know, the return must be filled in XML. Excel isn't accepted anymore, and it needs to be submitted in this machine-readable format. The XML file has 2 different table structures. Table A is more quantitative. Table B is more qualitative. This is only really necessary if you're thinking about building the XML in-house. The tables must be filled out in the exact order that the schema demands them in, and if you change the order, etc., the files will be rejected. As I've mentioned before, every single field is mandatory and it comes with strict formatting rules. There are specific reference codes. You've got to use country codes in the ISO 2-letter format. Decimals, integers, and even percentages are structured in slightly different ways to what we're used to. So for example, 4.7% is now a decimal as 0.047. And the reality is we will all more than likely have validation errors when it comes to this report, and that's normal. But fixing them takes both compliance knowledge and technical expertise. And this is exactly what tripped up a number of firms on the DORA return. Their vendors could generate the XML files, but couldn't troubleshoot the errors because they knew the tech, but not necessarily the compliance. So given how strict XML is and how easy it is to get caught out, the big question becomes, do you build this in-house or do you work with a vendor? Building this in-house is possible, but it's a serious lift. You need technical, data, and compliance teams all working together, and it risks becoming a distraction from your core business. So if you're looking at a vendor, what should be on your wish list? In my view, there are 6 key essentials to this. 1, the platform should have the CBI guidance and definitions baked in, so you're not constantly flicking back and forth between files. 2, it should use the CBI's own files directly, not some proprietary template with complicated macros that's forcing you to do the same work twice. Validation and XML generation should happen in real time so you can fix errors as you go. Approvals and audit trails, to me, are non-negotiable with the CBI. You need to demonstrate that sign-off and that governance when it comes to CBI reporting. Task scheduling and reminders help keep your team aligned and on track to deliver the AML REQ. And most importantly, you need one-to-one support when it matters, especially around your submission days. And that's when we'll find out if a vendor is a real partner. And if your vendor can deliver all of this, and not just for the AML REQ, but across all of your CBI reports, and even extend it into other jurisdictions, that's the cherry on top. It means you're not just solving today's problem, but you're setting yourself for long-term compliance efficiency. And I know the question you're all wondering, does Comply First do all of this? Yes. Whether you build or buy, the one thing that matters most is when you start. So if you remember just one thing from me today, it's this: start early. Don't wait until 2026. Use the November testing cycle to fail safely, learn, and adjust. We saw this clearly with the DORA return earlier this year. In their testing phase, over 90% of firms failed the dry run. The CBI actually had to issue multiple rounds of follow-ups following the submission in April. And even the EBA guidance notes and the CBI's validation rules both failed and were incorrect at the time of submission. The hardest part wasn't necessarily the data when it came to the DORA return earlier this year. It was actually the validation rules and troubleshooting their awkward error messages. Vendors without that right blend of tech and compliance struggled, and the teams that came out ahead were the ones who started early and leaned on the right expertise.
We all know CBI testing is coming, and that can be stressful. So our goal is to take that off your plate so that you can continue running BAU and compliance, not wrangling with XML files and spreadsheets. So we'd like to make a practical offer to you of some support. We will help you submit your AML REQ test file for free, even if you're not a client with us. You'll get full access to our platform and one-on-one support from us. And I guess with this, there are no strings, no obligations, just proof that it works. And if you already have a vendor, that's fine. Test with us anyway. Worst case, you'll get a second set of eyes on your return, which is always good. And best case, you might see something that can do it better, faster, or easier for you. And if you do decide to switch later and you still have a vendor, so you're not quite sure, we will reduce your first year price to cover that vendor overlap, so you're not paying twice.